You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. This is the Waystation, your source for news and rumors for June 11th, 2023. And just when we thought we had all the news bundled up this Sunday afternoon, Star Wars decided to throw us a curveball. And by curveball, I mean Star Wars Outlaws, which is the latest game from Ubisoft. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, along with Jonesy, who's with me tonight. Jonesy, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Actually, you know what's funny is one of my early nicknames or screen names on like just, you know, video games or whatever, like especially first person shooters was Outlaw, like Outlaws Act.
Well, there you go.
There you go. And actually one of my good friends, he passed away. That was his nickname. I didn't even know it until we both had the same name in the same game. It didn't really work out that well. But anyway, how are you doing this evening, man? Long time no see.
Yeah, welcome back to the show. I'm doing just fine. I'm glad to have you back, man. So I guess in a nutshell, pretty good restful time. I know you were out at Star Wars, Star Wars Day in Joliet?
Yeah, Joliet.
Illinois?
Yeah, it was really cool. There was they do a parade and they do all sorts of, like the 501st comes out. I think it's what Greg from Rebel Base Car Podcast was telling me, because he was out there as well as Nicole from Rogue One Radio. A bunch of people were out there. It was really cool. I think even the Blast Point, one of the guys from Blast Point was out there, but I didn't see him, so was able to catch up, although I'm pretty sure I passed him like 5,000 times. But they had a whole toy exhibit. I took a ton of photos and videos. I've not been a good Jonesy. I've not got them all up online. I anticipate putting all this stuff on Patreon. I interviewed Greg, interviewed Nicole as well. But man, yeah, they had a parade, the 501st. I think it was the biggest 501st meetup of the year. Usually is at Joliet Star Wars Day.
Oh, wow.
So it was really cool to be able, just as I was kind of out about, you know, taking some time off, being able to be kind of right place, right time, and be able to do something like that, and be able to go meet John Jackson Miller, of course, Dave Dorman, one of the artists out there, Jamie Stell, another artist that I've known for almost 20 years now. He lives like in Ohio or something like that, but I met him in Dallas of all places. So
that's weird.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, he was at another, like the Sci-Fi Expo back forever ago back in the day.
Right.
And so I've actually got a Republic Commando I had him commissioned. So I was, when I've been talking to him, I was like, man, you probably don't remember. We've been Facebook friends forever, but we haven't really interacted in a long time. But it was really cool though. So it was really neat to be able to kind of experience that. And it's been a long time outside of Celebration. It's been a really long time since I've been at like just a Star Wars get-together party type of thing. Like not since the Houston Fan Force days. I mean, I guess May the 4th be with y'all is about the closest I get, but you know, for just everything to be going on around you for several hours is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a one time. We were looking into that. And one of the most interesting things was I was trying to, did you find out how by chance this whole thing started? Because remember I asked you, I said, how did this even start? Because all places, no offense to the townsfolk of Joliet, Illinois, but that's just not what I would consider almost like the mecca of Star Wars celebrations outside of Star Wars Celebration. And yet this has been going on for a number of years. It's a massive event there in that town. I mean, it feels like everybody, in my head as a stupid Texan, I think everybody there is a diehard Star Wars fan, has seen the movies, 20 times now, back and forth. But why Joliet? Like, I really want to know kind of like what was the origin and how did it, I mean, Star Wars, don't get me wrong, it's, kind of cool, right? But
yeah, it's
is it cool enough to kind of, cling on for, like, Stephanie's chiming in 11 years now is
12,
yeah.
This was actually the 12th year, yeah. So
wow.
It's been going on for a long time, and that was after not doing it for 2 years because of the pandemic. So again, this goes back to, gosh, what is that? 2009, something like that. I think.
Yeah, so this predates the Disney purchase then too, because that was kind of a resurgence in Star Wars, right? Fandom and new people coming in.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a major suburb in the Chicago area, and as you and I have seen, like we have a lot of listeners in the area, in the Chicago, Indiana, Ohio, like in the upper Midwest area, Wisconsin, and Michigan as well. And it's just really, for some reason, it just seems like there is a large concentration of people just in this area. At least it seems large to me, because yeah, there's a lot of people that like Star Wars here in Houston or in Austin or whatever, but it doesn't seem to be as hardcore in some ways as some of these folks. And man, when I show you all some of the videos and the pictures of some of the costumes, Man, they were amazing. They were really good. So I don't have the history on it. Sorry to disappoint you. I know that's your bag. You love, and I'm the same way. I was actually before coming on there. I've been watching like an Alice Cooper documentary of all things, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's really cool to know the history of some of those things. I'll keep digging, see if I can find it. But no real news on that one. But it is really cool to go back there and just see all the people come out, and then to know that we have peers in the area with Greg and some of the other folks. It's just so cool to be able to meet up with them and just talk, have fun. Hey, did you go see this? Hey, did you go do that? I think I did an interview for his show. I had him do an interview for us. I'll get those posted here eventually. But
Oh, good. Awesome.
yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It was really great to be out there, and although it was hot, and I think I even complained about it. It was even hot for me as a Texan.
Wow. That says a lot, especially since not only are you a Texan, but you're a Houston Texan, which, you know, you should be no stranger to humidity and just miserable life in general.
We are the armpit of Texas, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. The sweaty armpit of Texas says, as we like to joke around here. Because if you look at it, you know, it's kind of like you're in the curve. All right. Enough of that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, so let's get to the freaking news.
You know who's not in the curve? An amazing Albert.
Yeah. Who's not sweaty?
Who's not sweaty? Our amazing Patreon members. You know, their blood, sweat, and tears go into our show, and we put all of everything they donate for us right back into it. But a huge thing. That was a terrible. I got to get back.
Yeah. You're a little rusty. Yeah. You'll get back on the track here.
But huge thanks to our now part of the Tri members: Rob, Mike, Lauren, Dante, Risk, Justin Jackson, Sharkman, Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh C, Jacob, Steve, Reader Reborn, and our Delusions of Grandeur members: Rod, CJ, and Kathy. If you're listening to this, we do a live stream. Our Patreon members. Well, actually, hold on, back up. We do a live stream. CantinaCast.com/YouTube. If you're interested in Patreon, we have a special show that we do after the Waystation on Sunday evenings. And tonight we're going to do a special spotlight episode on all of the Ahsoka news that we've been getting. We got a new trailer. We got a release date of August 23rd. All sorts of good stuff. Empire Magazine has a huge spread. They just hit the stands this week. So we're going to do a deeper dive. We'll talk a little bit about tonight in this show, but then we'll do a little bit deeper dive and do a little bit of a scene-by-scene breakdown analysis, as you guys come to expect and love from us. But a huge thanks to all of our Patreon members. Our Patreon members actually get a live video feed of that one starting at the This Is The Way tier. So if you're interested, CantinaCast.com/Patreon. I eventually got to the point I was trying to make.
Hey, you stuck the landing. Another happy landing, if we could go ahead and just quote Star Wars while we're here. Good job. All right. See? It's like riding a bike, man. You're right back into the
Dale is shouting my name, but I really don't know why he's shouting my name. I don't know what it is.
I think he's happy to see you.
Okay. Hi, Dale.
That's all. Although Lauren did an outstanding job of filling in. And by the way,
y'all had great shows. I really enjoyed those short stories. And y'all mentioned, you know, do we need to do more of those? I'm with you. I think that we need to sprinkle those in from time to time because there really are some cool ones in there. Even if they're not canon shaking or anything like that, they're just a lot of fun to go and talk about. And
yeah,
I'm all for infusing this show with more fun.
So we might, so we'll be back on Wednesday of this week. I need to schedule that, but we're going to either do Resolve by Alex Segura or Masters by Tessa Gratton, who you may know from the High Republic stuff. So again, we'll be covering another short story from Jedi, stories of Jedi and Sith. Awesome. Look that up. So that'll be on Wednesday night, I think 9 p.m. Central. So coming up here, set some, just a few more days. And then we'll try to keep this going. But we joke that I need to get you involved in this as well. So because there's so many good stories, honestly. I think it's a shame that they probably don't get the attention that they do because they are just a lot of fun to talk about and they're real quick listens as well. So
yeah, and like we talked a few weeks ago, we're going to get Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
So the release of the From a Certain Point of View for Return of the Jedi is coming out August 29th, I believe, is the date. So again, those are going to have a fresh set. We know our old pal Adam Christopher is in there and he's doing some pretty cool things. So there's a bit of an arc maybe developing. So again, we're really curious to see how those stories go, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I've been listening to I listened to the Darth Bane trilogy over the last week or two.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
And oh my goodness, it is still just so good. And there's just so much lore in it. There's just so much that I know we're way off topic for a news show already, but this is news to me. But it's something that, or it's going to be news to them. It's something I think that we should go back and kind of dig into when we can carve some time out, because I think there are some connections too of what we're seeing with things like the Acolyte, even with High Republic, and just the view of the Sith. Like we haven't had a really great introspective on the Sith, and the Darth Bane trilogy is like the pinnacle for that story. So I'm hoping we can go back and kind of we did a Rule of Two show not long ago, but actually do a formal kind of Darth Bane and everything about Darth
Brotherhood,
Bane, the ideology,
history.
Brotherhood of the Sith, everything. Even the how the Jedi played into it was just so cool. So I'm looking forward to us doing that at some point.
Yeah. Hey, man, you don't have to twist my arm. And as Alex said, you're wearing your red shirt today, so this must be dark Jonesy and red. So you must have been inspired in some way. That logo actually, doesn't that match your sneakers that you got from Celebration?
Yeah, they're very similar. Although these are all TIE fighters.
Oh,
yeah, these are all little tiny TIE fighters falling from the Star Wars logo.
All right.
Hey,
well,
we've got news.
All right, where do you want to start? 10 minutes in, we're going to finally get to the news here. And we've got a lot of stuff here. So we did have to weed some things out because I think it's been the better part of almost 3 weeks since we've actually done a Waystation because of the vacation and all that other stuff. But where do you want to start first?
Yeah, you know what? Real quick one. So Mark Hamill was on CBS Sunday Morning. I know not a lot of people in our listeners maybe watch that show. A little bit older generation show.
I do.
Know,
well, okay, never mind. I shouldn't have said that.
Right. So anyway, real brief, he was asked in this interview, and it's just kind of a in perspective on Mark Hamill rather. And so he was just asked, "Hey, will you ever go back to Luke Skywalker?" And Mark Hamill's quote was, "Well, you never say never, but I just don't see any reason to. They have so many stories to tell. They don't need Luke anymore. I had my time, and that's good, but that's enough." It's pretty consistent with what we've heard from Mark Hamill before. I don't think he's quite correct in that standpoint because I think clearly there's more interest in Luke Skywalker, especially this post-Return of the Jedi period. Mm-hmm. We've seen in books, we've seen in Mandalorian. So I think there is more story to tell, but in a major movie type of perspective, I mean, Mark Hamill's probably right in this regard, you think?
Yeah. Well, and I would say the I forget the woman's name that interviewed him in that CBS interview, but she immediately said, there are probably a lot of people that would disagree with you that we don't need Luke Skywalker. And he was kind of like, he kind of almost thought about it for a second. I would say that I get what he's saying, right? He feels like his story has been told enough. And I love that he's like acknowledging that we've got a lot of other characters, a lot of other stories. This is a new group coming in. They want to tell certain stories, certain things. And if Luke Skywalker happens to be a part of that, I don't think he would be opposed to it. Where I would see him where I could see him definitely, well, I shouldn't say that. Like with the technology we got going on, and we've talked about this before, but there's nothing that's going to keep him from coming back and doing live action, and we can get some form of that, right? But, it would probably be easier to do some kind of an animated series or bring him in with the voice talent that he has and is. That might be more conducive for, him at his age. I mean, he's 71 years old. That was like mind-blowing when he said that. I thought, holy crap, because he considers himself an elderly person. I think he said an elderly recluse, I think is what he called himself. But yeah, good interview. I mean, there wasn't anything really kind of groundbreaking, but it was kind of cool to see him get walked through This Is Your Life, where he started up until Star Wars, the work that he did afterwards, and just, get his get a retrospective look on that character and what Star Wars has kind of done for him and what it means to him even now at 71 years old. So great interview. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so we'll have the link for that out in the show notes. You guys can go take a watch of that. I think it's like a 20-minute interview, something like that. In Hollywood drama, Albert, I don't know if you and Lauren talked about this while I was away, but I know we did not talk about the whole behind-the-scenes tell-all book for Lost, which of course brings in Damon Lindelof, which started to perhaps unveil some or pull some of the veil back of secrecy of why he was asked to leave Star Wars. Did we ever really talk about that?
No, we didn't get into it. Nope.
So we won't talk about it as much maybe today. Maybe we'll come back and revisit this. But there's another Hollywood tell-all book coming out, and this one is specifically talking about Lucasfilm in it. Now, the good news is that this one has nothing near the expose type of piece like is in the Lost book. So this book is called Burn It Down, Power, Complicity, and a Call for Change in Hollywood by Maureen Ryan. It's also in contention for the longest title for a book.
Oh, yeah.
But it's nothing like the Vanity Fair article that came out in the book that's coming out for Lost. There's a little bit of maybe possible issues in the writer rooms. There were some consistencies when the Lindelof, maybe some pressuring of people and maybe, I don't know, things like nepotism or protecting some people and this person is who they are and a bunch of nonsense. There's some of that. There were some things in there about maybe budget overruns, lack of fiscal discipline. Not shocking because this is kind of Disney's, I think, visual movie TV slate, Disney Plus slate in general these days. Mm-hmm. And then a lack of diversity, right? So a concern about lack of diversity, especially behind the camera in the movie director's chair. And again, I think this is something that we have seen. This is more specifically in the movies because when I first read that, I was like, this is not accurate at all, because they have a lot of diversity behind the camera with the TV shows and all of that. But when it comes to the movies, I definitely see that. But again, we haven't had a whole lot of movies really, so to speak. So for me, it was like, okay, and there's more coming. So I think those are things that are changing. But to me, it was nothing really earth shattering. These are problems every company has, every writer's room has. They need to get better, and it's not excusing any behavior, but anything behind this. Do you even get into these tell-all books? Do you find these types of things interesting?
I think I only do when they specifically mention, like if there's a section where they're talking about Lucasfilm and some of the practices or kind of what went on behind the scenes, that is of interest. But is it enough for me to go buy the book? No, probably not. I'll probably just search Reddit for someone who's kind of put it out there. And if they don't, then maybe, we've done this in the past where we've gone out and bought a book and just for the sake of covering, one piece of this thing. So I'm not in the movie industry. I'm sure there's an audience for this book and there's somebody waiting and has already pre-ordered and just, can't wait for this thing to come in. But this isn't a book that I typically would get into. It does sound like it is more, again, not specifically against Lucasfilm, but just kind of the industry in general. And my take on that, especially with Hollywood, and no offense to anybody that's involved in Hollywood, but it's like everything else in life, right? There's one truth, there's the other truth, and then there's the real truth, right? There's probably, like you said, maybe 50% of this is probably pure conjecture or someone's opinion, where the other 50% maybe is grounded in facts in some way. It's just really hard to tell. It's whatever you're looking for. So again, if you're really interested in this stuff, it's probably gonna tick the box. Otherwise, I'd probably just save it for the Cliff Notes version and see what's meaningful or what's worth discussing when it comes to Lucasfilm and Star Wars.
Right. In other news, if you love the actors on actors YouTube stuff that Variety does, they have a great one out there for Diego Luna and Hayden Christensen. This is where basically they have two actors. They did this with Pedro Pascal and who did he do? Was it with Ewan McGregor maybe a couple of years ago? But anyway, so Diego Luna and Hayden Christensen do actors on actors. They kind of interview each other. Yeah. And of course, a lot of it is around Star Wars. Not a whole lot that we haven't read in other contexts, be it interview articles, especially when Andor was coming out from Diego Luna's perspective. And of course, we've had a lot of Hayden Christensen with Obi-Wan Kenobi coming out. So they recount some of those stories, but it's like a 30-minute piece or something like that.
It's pretty long. Yeah.
It is quite long, 30 or 40 minutes. So if you're interested, we'll have that in the show notes out there. But was there anything of note in those? Do you enjoy actors interviewing each other in this type of thing? Because it's sometimes a little awkward because they're not professionals at this. But do you enjoy just people talking about their craft, one another, and just their experiences?
I use these almost as a gauge to really hone in on which actors I think just kind of understand, like actually get it, that are not completely lost to
That's a great point, yeah.
the fandom. And it was pretty clear to me, like, and I've not seen a whole lot of these. I've seen quite a few of them because they are very interesting. But like you said, it's hit or miss. Sometimes you get actors on there and they're asking kind of superficial questions, or they don't feel very secure. And part of that could be because, like you said, they're not interviewers, they're not news reporters, or they're not in the news industry in any way. And the other part is they're just kind of, this is not really what they do. They're given scripts and lines and they go do them and they do a really good job, and that's about it. So I would say that this is definitely one of the ones I would recommend. Even if some of the footage is stuff we've already heard from both Hayden Christensen and from Diego Luna, it's so good. And they're so genuine. They're so humble. When Diego Luna was talking about how, he was really beside himself that he was even being asked to do this. Like I don't fit in. There's nobody that has my accent. I don't see myself on any of this stuff. What do you want from me? What are you expecting me to do? Right. And then just kind of how Tony Gilroy was, championing him, saying, no, you're exactly what I want. You're exactly what we need. This IP needs, really. That was just some really good stuff. And then on the other side too, for Hayden Christensen, just understanding like what he went through. He got so much crap at 19 years old for coming in and playing this character, and then what his career was like afterwards. And, him being very, I would say, almost humbled, I guess, in some ways. But then coming back to it with Obi-Wan and just rekindling that relationship. Again, nothing groundbreaking new in terms of what we've already heard, but it's so good, so good. And again, these two people are just so grounded. Like, they're not in the clouds as actors. They are very, very much, I hate to say like us, but, right, they are.
Well, they're human.
They're human, and you can see it.
Yeah, and I love, Diego Luna is just so infectious. I mean, he just has such an energy and excitement, and just listening to him talk is just really captivating in a lot of different ways. So I'm with you. I think this is one go out there and watch it, especially if you haven't seen one before. These are interesting. It's a different perspective. A lot of it's been rehashed before, but I think it's always good to hear it from the person rather than just reading it, because it has a different meaning when you hear it. And to your point, I think with Diego Luna's story in particular about, representation and what that meant for him, about wanting to bring that into Star Wars and that it was part of the story, and then how they developed all of that stuff for Rogue One. And there was a little tidbit about how they used to joke about doing a prequel basically to Rogue One well before anything with Andor was done. The movie wasn't even out for Rogue One, so it's always fun kind of hearing how these things get started. Kind of like Rosario Dawson saying she wanted to play Ahsoka and just kind of manifesting itself, right?
Yeah, they will it into the galaxy, and the Force, answers.
Exactly. So before we get to some Ahsoka news, one last tidbit in the movie front, Dawn of the Jedi. Again, James Mangold's very busy, of course, but he is hoping to, again, Writers Guild strike notwithstanding, but he's hoping that his project slate should clean up a bit to where he would start writing the Dawn of the Jedi movie sometime this fall. So maybe late fall, like October, something like that. So again, not really news, things that can shift, but it's always interesting to hear when the project might get started to start getting us an idea of what a realistic timeline is for a project like Dawn of the Jedi, especially given some of the challenges that are going on with the Writer Guild strike, and now there might be another strike. So we'll see where all this takes us. But
so that would put it
exciting news there.
Yeah, so that would put it late 2025 at the earliest?
At the
early 2026?
That's just a script. So, and I think Dawn of the Jedi, it sounds like they're okay to let that one push out maybe a little bit more. So I'm thinking 2026.
I think that would be
reasonable.
That seems reasonable too. I mean, assuming this strike doesn't go any longer than it already has, right? That's really kind of what's going to keep pushing a lot of these things further out.
Yeah, but of course the big news of the week, Mr. Padilla, was that we have a release date for Ahsoka, August 23rd. They're keeping with the Wednesday releases. Pretty exciting. Not the August 31st it was originally touted and released or whatever, but August has stuck somehow. And so now we have it official, August 23rd from today's date. That is about 6 weeks away. So welcome.
Holy bananas. 6 weeks.
Less than 6 weeks. Yeah, today is June 11th. So yeah, we are, I think that's right?
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds right.
No, it's longer than that. It's probably like 10 weeks. My bad.
Okay, yeah, I was like, wait a minute. No, that's better. I was thinking, we're way late on, because we had all this Ahsoka stuff planned and scheduled, and I'm thinking, holy bananas, I need to get back on the ball because I've been slacking before it's 6 weeks away. So, heart attack there.
But pretty exciting. August 23rd, that gives us time to get the Ahsoka series in and then also still have something later in the year, of course. And then they gave us a new trailer with a couple cool little tidbits, but yeah, here we go. Let's start the marketing machine, right? Where usually when you start getting this 60 days out type of thing, you start to see the media machine starting to ramp up. Again, it's still a little bit light touch when the trailer came, but then we knew Empire was coming right behind it with, multiple covers and a gold foil cover, I think, for one of them too. So anyway, kind of initial thoughts on the beginning of the Ahsoka Blitz here.
Yeah, it's great. Good way to start it. It's always nice to have a release date. And then from there, I think they're starting to release some of the footage that was behind closed doors at Star Wars Celebration. And Jonesy mentioned it, but later tonight we'll be doing an Ahsoka news breakdown, I guess, starting at 10 p.m. We've got some images that we're going to share with our Patreon members from that behind the closed doors trailer that we've not shown yet on any show, really, that we've done so far. And we'll get into some of the images. And we've already done kind of the first trailer breakdowns. If you want a chance to go back and listen to that, you're more than welcome to do so. We'll kind of just try to add and append to maybe what, if anything, these new images and certainly the stuff from the Celebration trailer kind of add to this. We didn't get a chance to say this, and I just want to take the opportunity to say, my heartfelt sorrows to Ray Stevenson's family, friends, anyone that's ever known him. It was just tragic and shocking. I hate to bring this down, but we've not had a chance to talk about it, honestly. We didn't do it when Lauren and I did the show. So, yeah, I mean, it's sad. It's really sad to see these footage and all this stuff coming out in these interviews. And he's done stuff already. I would imagine there were some things that were probably filmed ahead of time. So it's just going to be weird, man, surreal to see him out there. And he looks so full of vigor and life and perfectly healthy. And then, he was just gone. So, man,
well, we just saw him at Celebration too. And we had interviews with him on the stage. And it was just really cool being introduced to him in more of the Star Wars context. And again, we keep getting, and with the Empire article, with Empire Magazine spread, I guess, there were lots of little tidbits from all of the different actors, Lars Mikkelsen, Rosario Dawson, of course, Natasha Liu-Bedizo, so on and so forth. But having Ray Stevenson's voice in there was also just really cool. It was really great to be able to have some perspective because Baylan Skoll, his character, and then what's her name, Shin Hati.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that his apprentice character, those two we know so little about, and they've been keeping them very quiet. So to have any kind of details right now is it's man, we're just chomping at the bit to learn about it. So knowing that we're gonna have to wait all of this time to get it from the actors' mouths and then get their responses to it after the fact, it's going to be really difficult to have that void left and to be able to have everyone else be able to talk about the character and Ray Stevenson specifically, but not to hear it from the actor's mouth. It's going to be a little bit. It'll be sad. It'll be tough to have that because it always brings so much more to the story. Just like we were talking about with Visions, when you learn the story behind the story, when you go back and rewatch it, it can mean something even more than what it did before in the first viewing.
Yeah.
But again, so new shots in this. We got the official release of Sabine and Shin Hati's lightsaber duel. So Sabine with Ezra's lightsaber as well. So really exciting things. We're going to talk about all of that in more detail here at the 10 o'clock show. So if you're curious about that, again, cantinacast.com/Patreon for all of that. One other Ahsoka related news was that Katee Sackhoff, I think it was on Twitter, tweeted that she visited the Ahsoka set. But again, she's she's being Katee Sackhoff. She's being cool about all this. So, right. It's unclear if she's actually going to make an appearance in Ahsoka. What would you think if Katee Sackhoff made an appearance in the Ahsoka series? Does that even make sense? Or are you like, yeah, it's Katee Sackhoff. She can do whatever she wants. Bo-Katan, yes, please.
I mean, I think it makes sense. This feels like, I know we've been playing in this Filoni universe for 3 seasons now of Mando, Book of Boba Fett. All those do just kind of feel like, yeah, there's some stuff that they'll probably pull from that. But the Ahsoka series does feel like this is going to be kind of that catalyst, the one that touchstone for the rest of the series and ultimately that big event, which I'm expecting to be Thrawn's final return. Who knows what that's going to look like, Heir to the Empire, whatever that is. I think this is going to be that touchstone. So it does feel like there's an opportunity here to kind of be that nexus for everything where all the other shows weren't necessarily doing that because it really wasn't part of what they were trying to do, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So does it make sense to have Katee Sackhoff? Sure. Does it make sense to have Zeb pop in? Yeah. I mean, bring everybody. Anybody that's going to be part of this, I think it's fair game. Now, does she show up in the middle of this? I don't think so. I mean, I think the primary story is the story, which is going after Ezra, going after Thrawn. And we'll talk a little bit later in the Patreon episode about what is the most important mission and where are they really focusing their efforts? Because is it one? Is it the other? Is it both? But on top of that, I think I guess what I was saying is, if we see somebody like Katee Sackhoff or some of these other characters, it might be towards the very end of the season because it feels like they've got to kind of set that initial part of the runway up so that we can take off into the next series or tell the kind of, overarching story that's happening above the Thrawn and Ezra story. So yes,
they can't
the short answer.
They can't get in the way, right, of the
exactly.
story. Yeah, they have to serve a purpose. I think that's something we've always felt really strongly about. And honestly, I think that's where they've, aside from when it's not just a cameo like we did with Zeb, and when people have shown up, it has made sense for them to be there. And so I'm okay with this. I don't know how she would quite fit, but again, we know that eventually all these things, all of these stories, all of these characters are coming together for some sort of event, presumably. It's what it sounds like. That's Dave Filoni's culmination of all of this, of course. So I think at some point it makes sense for them to come through and come in. We keep getting a lot of teasers from Rosario Dawson saying that she's really pushing hard for a season 2. So we know Ahsoka lives. We know a lot of other people are probably going to live. So if there's more story to tell in that respect, then it would make sense for these characters. Even if they don't come in this season, they have a lot of opportunity to come in later on and to truly have kind of a reconnection of some of these characters that haven't seen each other in a really long time.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited about that. Along those same lines, though, so a bit of a rumor here is that there will not be a Book of Boba Fett Season 2, but Boba Fett will be back in Mandalorian Season 4. Mandalorian Season 4, again, from what we can tell right now, and again, Writers Guild, all of that, I think Jon Favreau has already written Season 4 for Mandalorian, but possibly starting to shoot later this year, maybe November type of time frame, something like that. So, but again, no Book of Boba Fett Season 2. If that's true, again, purely rumor. I don't know that there's a lot of people clamoring for Season 2, but I think for Boba Fett to appear in other content is a definite interest for a lot of people. At least it is for me.
Yeah, I think this is, again, it could be anything. I'll just say this. It could be anything.
Right.
There was no real kind of decisive answer on what was going on here. But Tamara Morrison was on the beach at some point here not too long ago, a couple months ago, reading lines to a script, right? He was just kind of walking around on the sand reading lines, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, he's reading lines. The only thing that's going on right now is, Ahsoka, or, is it Mando season 4? It's probably one of those. I don't know that he'd be coming back for a season 2. For me, it feels like if Boba Fett and what's happening on Tatooine plays a central part of this larger kind of story, then it makes sense. I don't think that's the case. I could be wrong. I mean, my gosh, it feels like we'd be anchored on Tatooine yet again for another major event. I hope that's not the case. If it is, then it makes sense. Otherwise, it's more likely that Boba Fett would just appear again as a favor, or I don't know. I have no context of really what's going on here. So I would say he'd probably be more of a character that would just be by himself, doing what he used to do, returning the favor, because Mando came and, helped him. But I can't see them doing like a season 2, a Book of Boba Fett, and somehow having that play into the overarching story. But, I'm with you too. Like, maybe they come back and do a season 2-3 years from now. I think I'd be okay with that. Plus, I don't know how much time passes in Ahsoka, really. I think that might determine for us as well, right?
Well, hell, we don't know how much time passed in Book of Boba Fett half the time. So.
That's very true as well. Time was very nebulous when it came to that show. So yeah, I'm okay either way. I loved Book of Boba Fett. I thought it was good. It wasn't their best, but I thought it was fun. Certainly loved the stuff that Robert Rodriguez did. But yeah, I'm more interested in the other shows right now.
Yep. So to wrap up kind of the Disney Plus TV show, we had a little bit of Acolyte news. The principal photography is finally finished, so it went on a little bit longer than expected. It's been going on since late in the fall last year. We knew that there were some, I don't know if we want to call them reshoots, just don't get anybody in trouble, but they were trying to finish things up with the original shooting, what they had. The guild strike throws a bit of a kink into some of that stuff, but it sounds like they're finally done, so they can go on to the next phase. Mm-hmm. So again, the Acolyte's not scheduled to release until next year, 2024, but good to have the show kind of in the can, if you will, at least this first run. And again, let some other things play out while they go and start some of the next phase of production. But again, nothing really to speak of here, but just exciting to see that we major milestone achieved for the Acolyte. So that's really exciting.
Yep.
Maybe move on. We got a couple more things here before we wrap up tonight. I think one thing, if you're interested in the High Republic, there's been a few High Republic things come out lately. So one is over on Amazon, they released the kind of the blurb for the book Defy the Storm, which is by Tessa Gratton. We talked about it earlier.
Yep.
And Justine Ireland. So if you are interested in that, we'll have the link in the show notes. So you can go and get a brief flavor. It's very Vernestra Rowe centric. So again,
shocker.
Kind of feed. Yeah, no, Vernestra Rowe, I think, is going to really be front and center of this phase. And again, we know that the Acolyte has her in it as well. So, put all your chips down on Vernestra Rowe in every which possible way, because she's about to finally emerge as this. I mean, we already knew she had a lot to her, but now she's finally sounds like going to emerge as an important character throughout the series rather than just in localized areas, which is pretty exciting.
You know what's haunting is, I don't remember if I think it was the comic, or it might have been one of the books, when Yoda makes that comment when he's talking about the Lost. Mm-hmm. Remember that, the Lost 20? And he says, he says something like, Roe, it was a tragic story, a sad story that one was. Like, it just, he's calling her out. Like, and I think when we talked about it, we weren't sure if he was just reminiscing, or was he implying that she was one of the Lost 20? And I hate to it's not a spoiler because it's in one of the freaking books. You read it, right? So,
right.
Yeah. Anyways, that just haunts me every time, especially with the Acolyte coming. I'm like, what the heck's going to happen there?
Keeve Trennis too, right? Because Keeve appears to be one of the 20, so it's really confusing as to what that's all about. So another High Republic news, I think I learned it from you first before I saw it in other places. Shadows of Starlight is a comic series coming out by Charles Soule, and this is going to be the events covering the 1 year period between where Phase 1 ended and where Phase 3 will pick up. No, you're not out of order. That's just how these things work. So this is coming out in October, but why don't you talk a little bit about that one, your excitement on that one?
Yeah, I don't know if you've got the cover, maybe not, but
I don't.
That's cool. The cover's really cool. It's there. Was it Anidato or?
Yeah, Ariana Onadito, yeah.
Onadito, yeah, is doing the cover for that one. Yeah, it's got all of the members except for one, Stellan Gios, who's not. It wasn't available for that shoot because he's gone. So I don't mean don't mean make light of that. Sorry, Lauren. She's probably
Surprised there were any Jedi left for the cover picture compared to when it started.
Well, I mean, the council has to be the council, so I think they're keeping that same number there. But Stalin Geos is certainly absent. They were one down, which is kind of says a lot. But yeah, no, I like the idea of. But now this is surprising to me. Here's the question that I had though: was this originally planned, or was there at some point they were kind of on the fence about it and said, well, let's just see how this kind of all plays out when we're done writing, and if we feel like we need to kind of fill in some gaps in that 1 year gap because it's not being discussed through the narrative of all the other books, then maybe we do? Or was this the plan all along? That's what was unclear to me, because they've already announced just about freaking everything for phase 3. And then they've come back and said, oh, wait, we're going to put something in the middle before we get all this started. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. Like, I love this idea that we're going to get some kind of, even if it's a comic book, maybe it's in, what is it, 4 issues? Or how many, what was it total?
I believe it's 4, something like that.
4 issues, right? So I'm fine with that. Like, I love, give me as much as you can to kind of fill in that gap of what happens in the year, because I've got a lot of questions, starting with Yoda and all that. I think they teased in the Star Wars show this week that they were asking about Boryaga. So maybe we get something in there too. I don't know. There's just so much that was not complete and wrapped up at the end of phase 1. We certainly didn't get a lot of those answers in phase 2. So there's a lot to discuss, and maybe this is a way to get some of those out of the way without feeling like overwhelmed by having to tell everything and complete everything,
Yeah, and I think this is probably planned, because comic books, when you talk about when the releases will be and when they do solicits, we're around the time where they would start doing a solicit for October releases. So I think the timing is I think this is pretty well planned. I mean, the High Republic has been fairly well planned in general from the very beginning. I mean, this has been one of the reasons why I think it's been so successful and why it's been so, even with some of the turbulence that phase 2 faced, which I don't think was all its fault. I think the different publishing issues, distribution channels, the supply chain issues, there were all sorts of stuff as a result of the pandemic that were interfering with that. And I think this was definitely planned. I think Charles Soule is just on fire. Charles Soule actually just released I think it's called The Endless Vessel. It's his own book. It's not Star Wars related, but it's getting amazing reviews as well. So the guy is just kind of killing it. He's doing a great job on the other comics. He loves writing comics. And it's actually really interesting. I think Kevin Scott, in his weekly newsletter, actually went and talked about the process of how they break down the comics and how they do it and what the process looks like in the start of it. And it was really interesting. I saved it because I'm like, this is something I want to go back to and talk about, because him and Ario and Dito work a lot together as well.
Right.
Because they both love horror and things like that. And so their styles kind of play into one another. But so I think that's really exciting. But I think this is going to be something that'll be interesting to see. I like the idea of not telling it in the books and starting right away and going back and filling in some of the key stories with either a limited run series or even the little one shots. I think those work really well, and the comics can really, I know we want the comics to play a bigger role in things, but this is where they really excel. They can excel with the right writer, the right story, and the right visuals. They can really go in and tell you the things that you missed that are interesting, maybe not crucial, but they're interesting for you to know, to help you bridge that gap and help you feel like you didn't lose a year.
Yeah. So we've got just a few minutes left. Do you want to talk about Star Wars Outlaws?
Yeah, man, the big surprise, right? Ubisoft came out. We knew there was lots of rumors of different video games getting developed right now, and we've had some that have been on the back burner of the news show for a long time. But then out of nowhere today, they're like, "Hey, Star Wars Outlaws coming 2024. Here's a trailer. Have fun."
Yeah, I was not. Actually, it was Alex, my brother, who's in the chat. He pinged me. He's like, "Hey, they're showing the trailer for Star Wars Outlaws," and I'm like, this guy's smoking weed or something, because there's nothing, and I wasn't getting anything on my feeds, or I wasn't even paying attention at the time. So then I go out and I type in Star Wars Outlook on Google. Nothing popped up. And I thought, let me go to Twitter, because that seems to be much quicker in terms of news. I went there, and then, yeah, it was like everybody was like posting about it. And this trailer they just announced it. It only been like 5-10 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, it's an open world game. I think that we kind of knew that they were working on an open world game, which is exciting, because this is technically the first one. I saw some folks debating, Star Wars Galaxies and Old SWTOR were actually the first open world games. It's, open world game.
They have different classifications, though. Those are more in the RPG space.
Yes, exactly.
A little bit different, yeah.
They are a little bit different. I get what they're saying. I mean, they are open world in that you can kind of go wherever, and it's non-linear storytelling. But think about this as an open world, like this compared to like Jedi Survivor, right? They're very different in that terms. There's a main storyline, but you're not being kind of led by a carrot being dangled in front of you where you're supposed to go.
Right.
So yeah, he's calling me a jerk because I was like, I don't believe you, dude. You're lying. So yeah, it looks great. I mean, this was all cinematic footage, so nothing in game. However, tomorrow,
I think there were a couple in-game shots, but they were the fighting sequences in space. I think those may have been in game, but you're right, largely cinematic. Which I'm like, can we please just get a cinematic movie, please? Like with CGI cinematics. Because I've been on this
long
train
overdue.
since I've been on this train since like World of Warcraft. Blizzard does an amazing job with this kind of stuff. Actually, most of these developers do. I know it's insanely expensive and it's really tough, but oh my gosh, it just looks beautiful, right?
Yeah. So Ubisoft, what is it called? Forward is the name of their convention. These are happening now for anybody that follows video game stuff. E3 is kind of no more. It's been kaput. And so everybody's just kind of doing their own thing. So Ubisoft's version of this is Ubisoft Forward. It starts tomorrow it says 10 a.m. Pacific time, so it'll be 12 o'clock noon because that is the central of the universe. But it doesn't say when, and they're going to be showing all kinds of Ubisoft games, but they have promised that tomorrow we will be getting actual in-game footage and playing. You'll be able to see people playing it and all that stuff. So I don't know. We may, depending on how that goes tomorrow, that might be Thursday's show. I don't know. We may have to dedicate a show to just kind of talking about this because from the cinematic trailer alone, like what is it, Nyx or that little cute axolotl dog-looking pet thing? Yeah, that's going to sell a million toys, right? But the storyline looks. I mean, some of the stuff that's going on there looks like there's ties to like Crimson Reign. Yeah. The stuff that's going on in the comic books, it takes place between Empire and Return of the Jedi, which is a very interesting time and not been very well explored outside of the comics. So there's a lot of opportunity here. I'm freaking excited about this game, honestly.
Yeah, and there's a certain rogue smuggling-looking character that has a lot of visual similarities to other Star Wars characters in Legends. So go watch the trailer, and y'all tell me what y'all think about that one.
So we'll tune into it tomorrow like everyone else and just see how that goes. But it looks like they no release date. I would imagine tomorrow they probably will give us a release date or at least some kind of a spring of 2024 or something along those lines. Depending on how far along they are.
Even if this was a later 2024 release, I would imagine it would start going into some sort of alpha type of testing by the beginning of the year if that was the case. So, again, usually you come out with that kind of trailer when you are approaching that home stretch, even though you have a lot of work to do, of course, but you got a long way to go. The challenge with some of these games is just making sure that it feels like something approaching a finished product when you deliver it. I think this is where games have really struggled to do this, is when they bring to you a product that doesn't feel like it's still in beta. And I'm not talking about, hey, there's a huge day one release patch or something like that, because I think those aren't bad things, because you got to put it to print, you got to get it out there, you have to make it mass available. You're going to keep working on the game. It's always a crunch at the end.
Yeah.
But it has to feel like it's polished. It has to feel like it's finished and that you're working and you have a game that does feel like there's not something broken or something missing from it right away, and you're just going to add on later. So I'm really interested to see what kind of pricing schemes they come out with, what kind of downloadable content, what the overall slate and the picture of this. For those maybe not as familiar with open world games, if you've heard of games like Skyrim and things like that, those are, or maybe for the old folks like you and me, like Grand Theft Auto was one of the first mass popular open world games. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and of course that hugely successful franchise. But Skyrim was another big one. I think even Legends of Zelda, like the more recent ones, all fit that criteria as well.
BioShock.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them out there, and those games can be absolutely amazing. If you go look at the Metacritic scores for a lot of these games, they are just insane, and they're in the hearts and minds of a lot of gamers out there that love this style. And to finally have an official, dedicated Star Wars one has got me really excited about this too. And I don't typically play these types of games because I get frustrated, because I do like direction. I like a quest. I like to know what to do. I don't want to have to think that hard about it.
Yeah.
But stuff like this though is becoming more appealing to me as I get a little bit older and want to understand this more exploration type of way of doing things, and I can just explore and feel more open about it. So this is pretty exciting though.
Yeah. And you're not wrong. There is something to be said about being able to just sit down, play a game, turn it off, come back a week later and not go, wow, Where was I? What was I doing?
Or I am so far behind in whatever I got to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many other gaming news going on. There's a rumor of an RTS game that's in development, which is that's a real-time strategy. We've not had a real-time strategy Star Wars game, legit one, in forever. I think since like Rebellion or Empire at War or something like that. It's been a really long time. So I'm excited about that opportunity. There's a lot of board games and card games and stuff like coming out. I do want to talk about that. I'm actually going to do a Patreon, little short one, a quick like overview of the Star Wars the deck building game that I played the first time I bought and played. So that's really exciting. So I'm going to do that sometime soon as well. So if you're curious about those types of things, again, go check out the Patreon feed if you're interested in that kind of thing. But
oh man, say goodbye to your wallet
stuff. Oh no, that's Star Wars Unlimited. That's the one that says goodbye to your wallet. Because when they say Star Wars Unlimited, that's how they view your wallet and your bank account. It's just an unlimited well of money for them to sink into it. And I got to be honest, I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, I might be as well.
I loved Magic the Gathering and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I'd be here for it. I love getting on the ground level of those games. Coming in at the end,
it can be hard.
That's really tough. Yeah,
it's financially challenging at that point.
Yeah,
just to be competitive, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we'll talk about more of those in the future. We've kind of been rolling those over the last few weeks, but we'll dive into those a little bit more and give you guys, if that's your bag, that's something interesting to talk about. We can throw some visuals up and have a discussion about some of that. It's pretty fun though.
They do a Star Wars News and Rumors gaming edition or game edition or something like that, right? Aggregate all this stuff in there.
Hey,
this is how this works.
We just start making Star Wars games, I guess. Yeah.
Well, there are a number of them. We haven't covered all of them that are rumored, or at least we know or in works. But in fact, there's
where the hell is Eclipse?
That's the one I was thinking about right now. I was like, oh yeah, there was Eclipse. Remember when we were talking about that thing? That's never going to happen. I'm kidding. It might.
It kind of feels like it at this point.
But it might not, too.
But that's another case where you had a really well-done, finished, polished trailer, a lot of excitement. Yeah, but I think Star Wars Outlaws, this is something we may come back and actually do more of a focused, kind of treat it more like a regular, TV show or movie breakdown of a trailer.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be, we're going to have to, honestly. I really do.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff in there. I think it'll be interesting and exciting. I mean, while we wait on Lauren for her to do Jedi Survivor, no pressure.
I didn't bring it up, Lauren. See, he brought it up. I had said nothing. This had nothing to do with this.
I have purposefully not read or played or done anything with Jedi Survivor so I can support Lauren and watch the channel over and over. And Alex in the chat, Red Dead Redemption was another great one. Red Dead Redemption 2 was a fantastic game. So
I hate that game.
I know, but they were so popular.
Yeah. And I'll have to tell you guys the story another time on Patreon or something, but I'm not doing it here.
Ooh, saucy.
Yep. All right. What do we got left? We got anything else?
I think that's it. A huge thanks to everyone that came out in the chat tonight. Dale, Jonathan, Steph, Alex, Lauren, everybody in the background. Thank you so much for coming out. If you're listening to this, if you're listening to this, cantinacast.com/YouTube. You can come out and watch the stream. You can join us in the chat. We typically will throw comments up there if Alex isn't giving out, or maybe when Alex is giving out Albert a hard time. It's a lot of fun sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, join the conversation with us. We'd love to have you, especially if you're just an audio listener and you're maybe curious what the YouTube is like. I was there once. I used to just listen. Now I watch.
Yeah.
So
we also have
you.
You want to mention the Jeditorial that we've got out now too?
Oh yes, yeah. So Jeff Englehart, who's longtime supporter and friend of the show, another Illinois guy. Somehow I didn't get to see him though. I was up there. I was really disappointed.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He in celebration of Obi-Wan Kenobi's 1 year anniversary, if you could believe it's already been over a year since Obi-Wan came out at the end of May. He did a Jeditorial for us where he did a bit of a reflection on it and some of the themes and lessons, and it was just really well done. Jeff, we have high expectations for Jeff because Jeff writes for a living. So when he comes out and produces something for us, it was really important for us because we not only do we love Jeff, but he's just always so well spoken. He has great ideas. So would really love for everyone to go out there and support him, check it out, do a thumbs up, leave a comment. We'll make sure those get over to him. cantinacast.com/Jeditorials. It works singular too. I fixed that link. So
nice.
Yeah, all that's out there. Yeah, so all that's out there. So cantinacast.com/Jeditorials. Everything can be found on cantinacast.com. Of course, there's links everywhere, so you should be able to find it. But huge thanks to Jeff for doing that. It means a lot to us. Everybody who has done Jeditorials for us, it really does mean a lot to us to take time out of your day to sit down and write those and clean them up and edit them so we can get them posted. And it means a lot for everyone to go out there and support their work. So please, while you're out there, check everybody else's out too.
Yeah. Okay.
There's Music Train at the very end.
I know, coming in strong there, finishing strong. All right, well, let's see. Quick shout-outs for everybody that joined tonight. You got those?
Yeah, I already did them. Dale, Jonathan, Jeff.
Oh, you did? Oh.
Dale, Jonathan, Steph, Alex, Lauren, and now Music Train as well. Yeah.
Sorry. I was
no worries.
Multitasking over here on this end.
I am all too happy to give everybody an extra shout-out. We appreciate all the support.
Yep. Okay, so once again, if you are a Patreon member, here in about less than 10 minutes, we're going to be talking about the Ahsoka trailer. We'll be showing pictures of the trailer that was shown behind closed doors at Star Wars Celebration and breaking down the newest trailer, which is called Begin. Kind of a teaser. Some stuff is new, and just kind of waxing our thoughts and opinions on what all of this could possibly mean. So we'll do that again here in less than 10 minutes, and that doesn't say 10 o'clock. But you know what that says. It's 10 o'clock tonight.
We're struggling
Central.
with time and distance and everything else today, so it's fine. Yeah. It just fits the mold tonight.
Otherwise, you can see Lauren and I on Wednesday night for another summer short story, Star Wars summer short story. We should call this a series now at this point, but we'll be back to do that. And then Jonesy and I will be back on Thursday for the regular show, weekly show, and to be determined, but it could be this Star Wars Outlaws here, depending on how things go. So, all right.
All right, folks.
That's going to do it. I guess we will see you guys here in just a little bit.
You're still listening? Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.